Welcome back to the Unstuck movement. I am your host, Rob Z. This platform is to help you get unstuck from any difficult place in your life that you might be going through right now. So I love to bring incredible people on here who have stories of breakthrough, because I find in life it's all about breakthrough. If we find the breakthrough we need, we're going to go to that next level and we're going to get unstuck from that spot. The chains that have been holding us back will be broken off of us. I want to thank the Connected Leaders Academy, who is the sponsor of this podcast. So the CLA has been incredible for me and for many other entrepreneurs in getting unstuck. If you want to find out what the CLA is all about, check out the information in the bio of this episode. Search Jose Escobar on Facebook or LinkedIn and get more information. Today, I have the incredible, the wonderful, the powerful Noemi Beres on the podcast, a self-taught artist from Hungary living in Cyprus now. She is renowned for her unique hand-sewn collages on canvas featuring old photos, postcards, yarn, textiles, and buttons. Her vintage-inspired mixed media pieces are created without a predetermined idea, allowing images to interact and build scenarios. Noemi's art has transformed her stress and her grief and allowed her to build her life and live it the way that she wants to live it, to help her get unstuck. Thank you so much, Noemi, for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
Thank you for having me on the show today, Rob. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Always enjoy talking to you, and I enjoy opening these episodes up with a question. We ask better questions. We get better answers in our lives. And I want to ask you this question because art, it can be so healing for so many people. It's a great outlet. It's a great resource, but it's also just something that can really impact us in different ways. How can art save your life? How has your art saved your life?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. Thank you for that. It started... How art might save my life. It started in 2019, and 2019 wasn't my best year. Probably was the worst year in my entire life. My dad diagnosed with cancer in 2017, and in 2019, in May, he passed away on my son's birthday. And so that was the start of the horrible events that started happening in 2019. Then my grandma passed away due to an accident she suffered. That was just one day before Christmas. That was 2019. So we couldn't really celebrate anything that year with my family. And so this is just went on, and this is just continued. When we were, I was just breathing a little in 2020, January, February, then COVID hit. And we had an online travel related business with my husband from 2007. So it was a long running business, and we're working hard in it. But because it was travel related, it basically disappeared from one day to another because of COVID, and the whole travel industry suffered. So yeah, and I was just thinking, and it's like, okay, what else can come? I mean, what else can happen in this life? I mean, all these bad things happening to me, what's going on? Plus, I mean, my son was at home, and we had to basically online school him, homeschool him because of COVID. Mm-hmm. We had to restart a completely new business from scratch, getting customers. So there was a lot going on. And I'm an artist. I was always an artistic type. I'm a self-taught artist, as you said. So I turned to art. It's like, okay, what else should I do? Because this is, if I'm not doing something, I'm probably going crazy So, and I couldn't get any supply back there during COVID time because everything was closed, shop was closed. So I started to use my old collages and I started to repurpose them. So I took them apart and I started to work on them. And I had these ideas, how should I, what should I do with them? So every evening after work, after looking for new clients and building up a new business, I went into my room, I put on my, my headset. I was listening to audiobooks, self-help, fiction, non-fiction, whatever. And I started to work on these collages every single night. I was working on them, and that was so calming and so like such a meditative practice that I felt like I should tell this to people, because art can save your life. Art can really save your mental health, and it just helps with so many things in life. We won't even imagine it, and you don't even have to be an artist in order to do that. You just sit down and you crochet, or you draw something, or you paint something, and you don't need to have an exhibition after that. You just do it for yourself, for your own sake. You distance and you detach from the pain, and I think that's the beautiful part of it. You're just in a different world. Yeah.
What was, when you were doing your collages and creating collages, I find this interesting because, scrapbooking has been something that's been very popular. People like putting together the history of their lives and their families' lives. And you can totally see how putting those connections together, spending the time, involving yourself in something that's meaningful to you, but also is creating something beautiful, and bringing, I picture it also like bringing stories together will be incredibly healing, which is one of the points of this platform. I want people to tell their stories, because telling your story is a healing journey. It helps you to heal from things and helps you to process things. What were you putting into the collages that you were making? Was it personal stuff? Was it just random stuff? Like, how did you get into the process of doing it? And when did you notice that it started like changing you?
So it would have a lot of questions there.
Yeah. How about we start with one question?
Yes, please.
What were the collages? Like, what were you putting in the collages?
So I didn't use words. I use pictures, and I use postcards. I use yarn. I use textile. The pictures I usually use, or postcards, these are from my childhood or from my family's memory. And most of them, I just found them online, like at home. And I asked my mom, like, who are these people? And sometimes she knows, sometimes she doesn't. And so I incorporate my family's history into every and each collage. Or for example, my dad took a picture in Berlin, in Germany, I don't know, in 70 something. So I took that picture and I just incorporated it. It just comes to me. It's really hard to tell. And I have this little book, like idea book. So when I have a collage in my head, I will forget about it. So I just, jot it down. It's like, okay, I use this picture and that and this. And so I just put things together. Things are just coming to me. It's not intentional. It's just like your subconscious is working in mysterious ways, and it just comes to me how to put these things together. I just have these ideas, or when I see something, it inspires me. And I'm a walker, so I walk a lot in Cyprus. So I take a lot of pictures, and like the Mediterranean lifestyle, the sea, anything, nature, everything inspires me. So I incorporate everything I see, feel, sense in, on these canvases.
Where do you put these canvases at? Where do you put your collages?
Behind me, sometimes. For example, this is one of them. And turns out that was actually, there's a tiny picture in the middle. That turns out that was my dad's godmother, who was like a little girl in that picture. And I didn't know that. My mom told me, it's like, do you know who she's? Like, I have no idea. It's like, yeah. So I put them on the wall, and I had a couple of exhibitions before COVID. These are group exhibitions mostly. There were one in Italy, Cyprus. I had installations as well with other artists in town, like locally here in Cyprus. So I was in the art scene before. I'm not really in the art scene anymore, but I would love to. My goal is to have a solo exhibition with all of these, personal collages that I don't really want to sell. So my purpose is not to sell, just to show my work to the world, because these are really personal, like with the pictures and everything. I wouldn't really want to sell them, and also would love to have kind of a coffee table book with all of my collages nicely, photographed. And I would love to tell the story of each and every collage, because each and every collage has a story behind it. Like every podcast episode, every podcast show has we all share a story. These collages share a story too. Yeah.
What was like the beginning of you deciding to do this, and how did you start to change as you began to do it? Like, how did things start to shift? You noticed that you were, putting these collages together, pulling old pictures out. What started to change in you as it was happening? What did you notice?
I think you're going down on memory lane with these pictures, because these are, oh my God, these are people from my family. And I often used like marriage photographs, and I incorporated them and with my Hungarian heritage and everything. So it was really powerful to just go, walk down a memory lane. It's like, oh my God, what happened to these people? And how it shifted me, it definitely helped mindfulness, helped my self-esteem. I became calmer, more collected. I had more patience with my family, with my, with everyone, with my clients, and you just feel so much calmer. And art is a safe space. So it was a safe space for me to not to suppress my emotions and my feelings, not to just swipe under the carpet, but to express them in a very safe way, so they won't hurt anyone. But it has a calming effect. And also, it's also proven that if you do art, the serotonin level in your brain will rise, and that will help to cope with anxiety, stress, and depression. So it's even science said that it's
I could like speak directly to that just with me and my son. We haven't done this much lately, but talking to you about this actually has inspired me to want to do this more. We would often draw together, and we would just either we'd watch a video on how to draw something, or we'd just sit down and just kind of freestyle draw whatever we wanted to draw. And it would always be such a calming experience. It would always be, things are quiet or you have some music on, and you get so involved in what you're doing that you just lose track of what else is going on. Great way to pass the time. Also a great way to connect. I think this is something that, if you have kids, they're probably playing video games. Video games can be connecting, but not in the way they're not relaxing or calming the way that art is. And just spending that time getting your creativity out, because art is truly a creative process that you're creating all on your own. Nobody's really helping you along with it. You're figuring it out yourself, which I think is just a magical thing to do with yourself or anybody in your life. And I also was thinking, as you were saying this, nobody has printed photos anymore. So I look back to my grandma, and when we would go to my grandma's house, rest in peace, we'd always look through photo albums. We'd look through the same photo albums over and over and over again, the same pictures, the same stories, but there was something really special about it. There was something moving and touching about it, and it brought all of us together. Everybody sharing stories, talking about things that happened in the past. And on the back of each picture, she'd have like a little story of like what was happening in that photo. And so what you're saying makes me think like what we need to, how many of us have thousands of photos on our phone? I know I do.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked at them.
Same here.
Yeah, right. Like, I haven't looked at them in forever. Or I've looked at some of them, but not all of them. They're not even categorized. Like to go and print some of these pictures off and sit through, look at them, put them into albums or make them into a collage or scrapbook, those sorts of things. There's so much to that. Like doing that as a family or just doing that to reminisce on the past, or like you said, I mean, just to do it for enjoyment. And there's like a healing process that comes along with that. You're inspiring me to want to do something like that, because I know that's powerful. And I know what that did for me as a kid at my grandma's house, looking through her albums and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so powerful. And I remember those albums that you were talking about. Like my mom was visited Canada. I don't know, was it 86? And I don't know how many times I watched these, photos from Canada in Toronto. And it was like, wow. And I still remember those pictures. And when we get home back to Hungary to see my mom, I showed it to my son. It's like, what are these things? They don't see pictures, as you said, photos anymore. But there's also other ways to make collages. Like they can help you to cope with life, and as you can improve your self-esteem and promote mindfulness. And there's good things that you can do. I'm doing actually like a course on it. I mentioned that to you in the green room before, and in my non-existent free time, that I'm doing this course on positive psychology and art therapy. And there's an exercise called strength collage, and it's like, wow, it's like immediately I was fascinated by it. So basically what you do is you go to this website. It's called VIA strength.org. And there are different options that you can do some assessments there. And you can find out your 20, how many there's like, I have to cheat a bit here. I think 25 strength, different categories there. And you will find your top 5 strength. based on this, assessment. And then you finish with this assessment, you pick you have your top 5 strengths, and then all you have to do, because we don't read magazines anymore, we do everything online, but if you still have a couple of those at home, that's good. Or you print out a couple of pages or pictures, whatever, from online, and then you find pictures that symbolize your strength, and you put them in a collage, on a collage. And then when you finished it, you put it somewhere in your office or something that you can see them every day. So when you lose hope, or your self-esteem is low, or your mood is low, or you feel blue or whatever, you just check out that collage, because that will collect all your strength you have in yourself and just build up your self-esteem again. So I think this is a great exercise, and that's not like the artistic type, but it's kind of therapeutic to do that.
Well, it sounds, that's what a vision board is too, right? Like a vision board would be a collage. Not from what you're saying, but I'm thinking if you make a vision board, that's a collage of what you want your life to be.
Yeah.
And so thinking of things in that way, that helps to reframe, right? That is art, but that's also constructive. It's productive. It's healing. It's visionary. It's so many different things in one. That helped me, actually, you saying that helped me to piece together why these things make so much sense as to why they work so well. Because you're putting together parts of your life that you maybe have not put together outside of your situation. So I got to jump into the sponsor, Jose Escobar and the Connected Leaders Academy, an amazing group of entrepreneurs that have changed my life, will dramatically change yours as well. So I want you to find out more about the Connected Leaders Academy. But Noemi, I also, when we come back, I want to know more about what you're doing now. How did Podcast Connections come out of your collage making? How did this take a business failure into business success? Because I think that's a fascinating part that people would not expect to have happen from you creating collages. We're going to talk about that in just a second.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So when I do these episodes, I like to ask people beforehand what quote or saying they live by. And you gave me the most simple quote to live by. Just keep going. 3 words, but has so much power to it. Just keep going. And we're talking about getting unstuck in your story. So you leading up into this revelation you had with creating your collages, you had a business failure. Now I know, just from knowing you and the people you've connected me to through your podcasting network, that you've created a very successful business for yourself. Tell me what has happened over the past couple of years and how the collaging played into that.
As we talked about it, it helped me to relax. It helped me to focus on my job, on my work. Getting up next day, I was more refreshed because I was relaxed. It was kind of a meditation for me. So it definitely has a connection between serving your clients right and you be more patient with them and just having more energy to work in your business. And the Podcast Connections was born out of, as I said, COVID. So that's how we started. And luckily we had a Irish mentor because we used to live in Ireland before Cyprus. And so we had an Irish mentor and he helped us basically to get into the podcasting world. Podcasting was booming. It started to boom in 2020. Everyone had a podcast, or if they didn't have one, they started one. So that gave the idea, let's start a podcast booking agency. To be honest with you, Rob, I didn't even listen to podcasts before 2020. I didn't even know really about them. I was in a different space. I was in a different niche. I was in the travel world. I was travel blogging. So I had nothing to do with it. So it was it was just one day to another, we set up a website and okay, let's do this podcast booking agency. I didn't know what I got into myself, to be honest. So that was it. And so we started to reach out to female e-commerce entrepreneurs. And that's how we started to build up our business. We started to work with them solely. Then we expanded with different niches. And then I started to do podcast guesting. So proof is in the pudding. Yeah, what I preach, I have to do it too, to just to prove it myself that it really works for your business, building authority and building your brand. And this is like a huge learning curve for me, and I love learning. And I think that was the most exciting part, because this was something I never did before. So there was something so new about it that I really enjoyed it. And sometimes there's so many bad things happen because of COVID, and people died and lost money and house and everything. And but then for me, it was like I was like reborn and just found myself in this whole new different world of podcasting.
Yeah, and talking about the name of this episode, how art can save your life. Podcasting is an art form. Conversations are an art form. I mean, there's so many benefits. So when you hear somebody saying they want to start a podcast, usually it's because it's to improve their business, or it's to get maybe a book that they wrote out to more people, or they want to be on podcasts, they can promote the thing they're doing. But the things you learn the most that I don't hear enough people talking about are, you learn how to listen. Number one, if you're going to have a podcast, you got to be able to listen. You got to be able to engage and know how to communicate with people better. You learn a lot about yourself, about how you look, how you sound, learning how to kind of be okay with you. That's one of the biggest things that I hear when I'm talking to people about it, is they don't like the way they look. They don't like the way they sound. That drives them crazy. It's like, well, these are things that everybody in your life already knows about you. It's just you are finding out. So that self-awareness comes into like full scope whenever you're doing something like this. And it's really powerful and a really helpful process for people. So it can make your life a whole lot better, make you much more self-aware. And also, I mean, the other benefits of just, it helps you become an expert at what you do. And taking it back to the art form, having a well-crafted conversation where you're actually getting somewhere and both people feel like they're communicating effectively and properly and getting their message across is a lost art form in our society, unfortunately. So I think that you finding this breakthrough that you had through making your collages led you into another form of art that's probably providing more breakthroughs for you and other people. Plus the connections and the networking that comes out of podcasting is just incredible. What are some of the things over the past couple of years? I'm curious from your end, of you help people get connected to great podcasts and get on great shows. What have you learned about people? What have you learned about yourself through the process of running podcast connections?
What I learned about people, I love this question. That I still have hope in this society and in the world, because sometimes I felt I'm just losing all my hope in everything. But then I met so many incredible people worldwide, US, Canada, UK, like all over Europe and all over the world, that like it really helped me to understand that there are so many interesting, fascinating, and valuable people out there. And what I learned about myself is that I love connecting. I love talking. I knew that about myself, obviously, since I was a kid. But I really enjoy connecting with people, and I enjoy listening to their stories. And the more open and the more vulnerable they are, those are the best stories. And it's funny because sometimes I wouldn't tell this story to anyone, like what happened to me, like step by step, and it was awful, and I was just sitting in the bed and making collage, because some people would say like, oh my God, that's so sad or something. And then I go on a podcast and I tell the world that like what I was doing. But I hope that this helps people to cope with their own problem. And also, so about myself, that I can do things that I never imagined I can do, or I can talk on podcasts, or I can help people sharing my knowledge. And that, like, I can watch back my videos because I don't feel cringe when I watch it. It's like, oh my God, my accent, my everything. And you just have to get used to it. Nothing's perfect and no one's perfect. You just have to go with it.
Yeah, it helps you to embrace you, like who you actually are.
So true. Yeah, absolutely.
It's an amazing piece of the puzzle that we don't talk about enough when it comes to any form of content creation, podcasting, and things like that. Plus, you're connecting great people together. You brought great people into my life. So I really appreciate what you do, because you find valuable people who really have a story to tell, have a message to share, and help them connect to the right platforms to do that. As we come towards the end of this, I think it's really an interesting story in the fact that it's oftentimes the things you would least expect in life take us to places that we need to get to. And I would imagine that you would feel that way about collage making, because that seems totally unconnected from the business end of your life to, creating this podcasting network, but now going into taking the thing that created such a change for you in your life, making these collages and bringing that into the world to help people go through that process. How do people get in touch with you? How do they get in contact with you if they want to know more about that and you can help them take them on that journey?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you just type my name in, Noemi Beres, I will come up with Podcast Connections. And also if you visit our website, podcastconnections, plural.co, you will find all of the information about us. And I'm also on Instagram because of my artsy side and my artist side. I have quite a big followers on Instagram, and I really enjoying doing that account. And just type my name in, Noemi Beres, and I will be there.
Cool. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off? Anything we haven't talked about?
I think just emphasize my quote, just keep going. Whatever happens, just keep going and do your things and try to find things that calm you down. It can be art, it can be something, collage making, drawing, drums. I love music, and just do something that will calm you and you can express your emotions in a safe way.
I feel inspired to ask you a question that I love asking, that I need to ask more people on this podcast. What did you want to be when you were 10 years old?
Oh my gosh. Funny enough, I wanted to work at a travel agency because I always loved traveling. I always loved languages. I became a linguist, so I'm a linguist by trade. So travel agency. And it was funny because basically what I was doing, it was connected to the travel industry. So when I was 10, probably I manifested this, but that was my plan.
That question's so good because there's a clue into, because when you're 10 years old, you're old enough to know what you like, and you're young enough that the world hasn't influenced you yet. So that if you can find the spark of what that was that you wanted to do and carry that into your career, you're going to find more joy and happiness and move yourself towards something purposeful for you in your life. And it sounds like that happened for you. So you did carry that over into what you do. And I'm inspired by it, but I also encourage anybody listening or watching, think about that for yourself. What did you want to be when you were 10 years old? And what nugget of that is being left out of your life? And if you are using the nugget of what you wanted to be when you were 10 years old, how can you amplify that in what you're doing right now to encourage you to find more joy in what you're doing, find more purpose, because that's like God's calling on your life, whatever that thing was that you feel naturally acclimated towards doing. So I'm glad that I remembered to ask that. I'm glad you shared, and some people don't even know when I ask that question what they wanted to be, and that's a question to search for the answers for, because there's a secret to be revealed in that place. So I just want to thank you so much, Noemi, for coming on the podcast, for sharing your story of how you got unstuck. Thank you so much for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
Thank you for having me, Rob. I really enjoyed our conversation.